All right, and we are now live. Welcome to the Habitat Public Issue Triage for the week of January 30th, 2018. I have posted the link to the query we're going to be using today into general on the Slack team, so feel free to follow along there. We'll also be sharing, doing a screen share like usual of the query as we work through each of the issues. So if you don't want to follow along there, you can just watch the stream. So give me 1 second here. Let's share this. That should be correct, hopefully. So we're sorting on open issues with no milestone and no project, actually. It looks like I shared the wrong link. Oh, no project is there. No milestone and no project. All right, so the first issue we're going to hit is 2123. It's another old one. But actually, Matt's on the call. He might remember this one.
Sorry, unmute myself. Let's see. I think this is done. Investigate running Windows services via. Yeah, we can close this. I wrote a blog post on this. In Windows applications. Yeah. This is. I've already got an example of how to do this. So we can close this.
Those are my favorite kind.
Yeah, there's no discussion necessary.
Right. And this happens every now and then. We end up in a like I can't remember what exactly it is that causes this, but every now and then a thing will get closed and then it'll get reopened, and I don't really know why, but we'll close this as completed. Great, one down.
Let's move on. I think what happened, we closed the PR, but just if for some reason it wasn't linked properly to the issue.
Yep, makes sense.
Similar to something that we talked about last week. Last week there was an issue we looked at with the wasn't the smoke check, but the spirit is the same. Where the health check has something to do with should be part of what, reporting to departed members, or
it was the issue last week was the one that was the health check should be involved in determining leader election.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, and I think this is a more generically, like, we want the status of the smoke and health checks to be gossiped, more or less, or be queryable from inside, be data that we can interrogate from the supervisor ring, I guess. So, Elliot opened this, so I would assume it's probably a reasonable feature. And it looks like Jamie actually already added it to the backlog. I don't know what's going on with our, it might be that we've just got a thing going on with our sort here. I'm going to try real quick. I'm thinking that some of these might. No, that's not right. I did it wrong. Yeah, that's what it is. So no project was not actually in there. Let's go ahead and resort. There we go. That looks more correct. I figured if we had gotten 40 issues in the last week, something really strange was going on. So let's move on to 3249. This is the issue that we were actually talking about last week, Matt. This is an open RFC. We did not get any comments on it over the course of the last week. I think that what we had basically decided last week was this was something that we were all kind of proponents of. It would make sense if you are providing a health check hook to your package that you would want that to be taken into consideration when you're electing a leader, right? So I think this one, it's probably safe to just accept it for now. I would assume it's not something the community will do because it's probably a untrivial amount of work, and the requirements for how many subsystems it would touch are probably high. So I think I'm inclined to put it in accepted minor.
I don't know if it's minor, but I would also suggest that we try to get more community participation, especially among the core team in looking at this. So like maybe directly ping, he says that he's already talked to Adam and Reset, but neither of them have like actually talked on the ticket at all. So it would be great if we just got more people who actually work on this part of the system to kind of participate in the conversation.
Yep, I definitely agree. So we posted it in the announcements last week. I'll do that again this week. And what I'll actually do now is I'll just leave a comment and I'll ping Adam and Jamie and see if we can't, and also Chris Mayer, and see if we can't get some comments on this as far as their opinions. And then we'll figure out what to do with it as far as accepting it next week. So give me just 1 second to leave that comment. Well, I was going to also do John Bauman's, but I don't know what his handle is on GitHub. Does anybody know that?
Yeah, it's Bauman J.
Ah, yeah, there we go. Perfect. Cool. Give me 1 moment. Sweet, easy enough. We'll move on, and I, just like last week, I will post that RFC again inside of inside of the announcements channel at the end of the stream. So, all right, let's move on to 4095. I'll give everybody a second to read through this one. So this is an interesting request. I think today this technically can be achieved by deploying your services into separate service groups, even if it's the same, even if you're deploying the same type of service. If you deploy it into separate groups that are isolated to node counts of 1, then you could effectively achieve the outcome you're looking to get here. But that's not like a first-class feature that we support today.
Yeah, and the question that I would wonder looking at this is, like, does that scenario even meet what he's presenting here. For example, are these different do these different instances need to gossip amongst each other? And if they were in different service groups, then that would be a problem.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I mean, and it sounds like we might need a little more context for what's trying to be achieved to effectively determine whether or not this is an actual feature that should be considered or not.
Yeah, can we think about this a little more broadly? Like, does this seem like something that would be a fairly common use case with the certificate and keys per instance? You know, can you kind of think about what service might need that, and then whether or not the initial suggested implementation would work or not?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering. Let's get some more input from the submitter and see if we can get some more context around what the actual requirement is, so that we can go forward with deciding whether or not this is an actual feature that we need. And like Tasha said, like generically, what is the use case around providing basically files to a single instance of a service across the mesh? Do they actually need to talk to each other with the gossip? Do they not? And what is trying to be achieved there? So I'll leave another quick comment.
Yeah. Like if these members are if these instances are members of the same cluster as opposed to totally separate clusters, like I think that's like that's a key fact that'd be really helpful here.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to 4114. Give everybody a second to read through this one. Huh. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, I think this. Yeah, let's check it out. I'm not sure if the change has been promoted yet. I think so, but this shouldn't be happening anymore. I suspect this was happening because the release view is it uses a cached, like a fastly cached API response. You get the vertical white bar, separate issue. I'm gonna have to talk to you later, man, because you're one of a few people I see getting that. So yeah, we'll figure that out. I haven't been able to reproduce it, but now I have. But anyway, yeah, the API. Sorry, say again.
I was just saying you need to run a Linux desktop, then you'll hit it.
Yeah,
that could be it.
But I think that the deal with this was that previous to this change, and this should be fine now, it should be fixed now, the list of channels was coming out of a fastly cached response. So any changes to those channels would not be reflected in that view, but would be reflected here and in the latest view because those aren't cached. So I think this is okay, but I will investigate this to make sure, and if so, I'll mark it fixed and closed.
So is the view that he's not seeing channels in is what specifically?
It looks like if you scroll up there, it says the custom channel doesn't show up in the release specific page for that package. So if you were to that fully qualified, this view would not have shown it until recently.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it definitely shows it now.
Yeah.
And so so we can probably close this out. The one that I know like can definitely prove this out is with, because neither of these are user defined channels, but if we go and look at versions, I know I have one here where I was testing the CI pipeline. All of these are custom channels.
Yeah.
So I think that's fixed.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it too. I think it's fine now, but I definitely saw it until very recently.
Sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and close this one then.
Cool.
Awesome. Let's move on to 4139. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like this is the plan initializer that I wrote. So I have plan init with docs, with callbacks, with all, creates a plan sh without a package scaffolding option defined. Okay, so that's a simple bug. Let's go ahead and add a bug label to that. This is a really trivial fix if anybody is interested in getting involved. Most of this stuff is just text files with templates, and it exists in the Hab repo. I believe underneath the Hab component, in fact. So if you look in there, and I'll leave a comment here in a moment that after the stream probably that links back to this, but this is a pretty trivial thing to fix if anybody feels like taking it on. And it is CLI. And there might be a little bit of rust. All right, let's move on to 4144. Matt might have some feelings about this as well.
Oh God, the bane of my existence. I swear, I just wish if when they invent time machines, I'm gonna go back in time. I'm just gonna like somehow do away with carriage returns altogether. They've like caused so much suffering in my life and the lives of others. Just it's certainly more harm than good. I mean, they were great when we had typewriters, but I don't have any typewriters. I don't know if you do. Need for a carriage return. Anyways, what's he saying? As much as I hate them, and I wish we could just I would love to write code everywhere to do the more I could do within my power to obliterate them. But honestly, I think really I kind of believe it's up to leveraging your editor. And so, for example, VS Code, Sublime, most modern editors today can handle this. So Notepad is not one of those. But at any rate, rather than, I honestly don't think it would be a good idea to have the supervisor preemptively, do like a, find and replace with nothing of carriage returns. But what you can do is have your editor make sure that your, the files that you're editing only have line feeds and no carriage returns, which basically takes care of this. The other thing that we can do, and I'll double check because I think we're already doing this. This would be in core plans. It would ultimately be up to whatever repo that you have your plan in. Is make sure like we have a git attributes that's playing nice, and I forget off the top of my head what the thing that we need to stick in there is, but there is something that we stick in there to make sure that when you pull down, when you clone the repo, you don't inadvertently stick in a carriage return. Like I said, I forget off the top of my head the logistics there, but I'll take a look at that and make sure that we're doing that at least in core plans. But yeah, my ultimate belief is that it's up to it's good editor hygiene that you need to exercise here.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think we can have pre-commit checks of your core plans to make sure core plans don't end up this way, but that doesn't really protect you from yourself, right? Like that protects you if you're consuming core plans, you won't ever end up with one that can't build. But in the case of if you're writing a plan file yourself and you're doing it on Windows, you need to make sure that you're using a modern editor. And if you're using like Notepad++, there's actually a Unix line endings option that you need to make sure that you turn on. But all of that is kind of generic to writing code.
To me, like if in the Linux world, typically like this particular problem is, you have other problems. You have bombs, and you have all stuff like that can come into play in terms of encoding. This is definitely very specific to Windows carriage returns, but yeah, like you say, like all modern editors, you just have to set your own defaults, and the problem is that a lot of people that do other Windows development work, they want those carriage returns in there because not having a carriage return can mess up other stuff, and so that might not necessarily be their default. But yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Well, I'm inclined to close it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to do.
I
will double check the git attributes, and I'll submit a PR there for core, but that's not that's not the ultimate answer. That's just something that we can do to help core plans. But yeah, ultimately it's up to you to protect yourself.
Yep, absolutely. All right, I'll leave a quick comment. Awesome. Let's move on to 4149. Incorrect package name used when connecting a plan file. Give everybody a second. Yeah. Yeah, we ran into this. We ran into this a couple months ago. I don't know what the current state is on this, but I did validate that this is in fact, at least a couple months ago, was definitely an issue. And the issue was that specifically the builder effectively would not push a new build change made to the plan file itself, and unless that plan file was in the root of the repo. Now, the incorrect package name is something that I'm not certain that I follow in this. Oh, okay, that's weird.
I've seen this too.
Where it gives you a complete package URL.
Yeah.
Huh.
I also left a note on the issue. Yeah, so this looks like it needs more investigation. I left a note that I hit this. I hit a certain what feels like something similar that I noted on the issue too, where the package name, if it has quotes in it, didn't kick off a build either, which is kind of weird. So yeah, seems to be something wrong with, generally with builds being initiated automatically.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would say since the package name is not complete, but a project with the name complete was created, that's probably something we want to look into.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add a bug and builder tag to this. And I'm going to throw that in accepted minor, because I think that's probably a legit bug.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's move on from there to 4079. Give everybody a second. How do you feel about this one, Tasha?
I think this is a pretty common request. Is there any reason not to do it? Actually, I think that there's some really interesting workflow stuff within just GitHub that we could do in general. So I think probably this sounds reasonable to me if you have a branch and you want to just have packages that you can share with people and deploy presumably to different environments. Why not,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think that the more workflows that we support, the more likely people are to want to use the tools. So personally, a feature like this, if your workflow is that you work off of a long-running, long-lived, there are all kinds of reasons that you may have to do that, right?
One Jamie Windsor.
Yep,
Yeah, I've worked in lots of shops where you know, people have different feelings about this, but for whatever reason, we didn't deploy off of master, and yeah, I could definitely see use cases for this.
Yep. Well, I'm inclined to just accept this. Is ever anybody downvote that? No.
Nope.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, it would. I mean, it'll be some UI work and probably some builder work. I don't think it would be excessive, but it would need mocks too.
All right. Sweet. Let's move on to 4153. Give everybody a minute.
Of course, this assumes that GitHub itself is giving us good authentication errors. I believe, because I remember having the same opinion, when we were building Builder, like, boy, some of these messages aren't that helpful. And then after digging into it, learning, you know what, we're not getting anything more helpful from GitHub. More, but that's my vague recollection.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I will say, like, there's probably something we can do. There's probably something that we could do. Right now, I know that, like, just this week, we had a couple of people run into the same issue that I ran into over the weekend, which was that when you have depending on how you've configured your token, and depending on whether or not you're using that token in more than one place, if you're trying to use it with Builder and some other external system that's also making queries to GitHub, GitHub really doesn't like that. And so you can run into some issues where you go to add plans and it'll just say, it won't say anything. It'll just basically circle and circle and circle and then say a plan cannot be added. But it doesn't give you any information at all with regards to response, anything like that, other than like a generic. And while these kinds of features may not be super useful, they might be a little more useful than what we've got now. I don't know how you would bubble it up in a way that is actually practical.
Yeah, it does feel like that this flow needs some. We need to we haven't really looked more deeply at whether this is still. There aren't improvements we could make in general to this flow since we launched. So this feels to me like something that deserves some investigation to see if we can make a little bit better, if not just sort of UX wise improve the whole thing a bit. Yeah. I don't know, that's all I have to say on this one. I feel like I see people hit this every now and then, and it makes me feel bad. I think it's like we need to just try to make it better here, probably. I think to some extent, like Matt said, like we're kind of limited to the APIs and the maturity of those GitHub Apps APIs, which are still pretty new, but maybe some more can be done now than could be done back in October.
Yeah. So do you want to accept this one, Chris?
Yeah, I do. To the extent that I can do something about it, I would like to, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, just because an issue gets accepted doesn't mean necessarily that it can be solved, just that it's something that we want to solve.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
So, yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and add a chore to that builder label. and I'll put that in accepted minor as well.
Cool.
All right, let's move on to 4148. So this is one that I've also run into. This was one that was mentioned in Nathan's other issue, but I'll give everybody a second to kind of read through it, and then I'll explain what I had seen. So I think that what this is if we look at 4078, I'll pull that one up. This is closed currently. Let's see. I don't remember where this actually ended. Oh, so Elliot was working on this as recently as 5 days ago. And he's aggregated. Oh, what he did is he actually migrated all of those issues over to the builder repo. So this is a thing that we didn't talk about at the beginning of the stream, but I'll do it now because it just came up. So this week, we actually migrated some of our components into separate repos. And the reason we did that is multi-fold, but the long and the short of it is that effectively it was getting harder and harder to continue to do development in a monorepo with the components that we had because the breadth of our work has increased so much and it has just caused problems with regards to our workflow and velocity. So we broke those components out into separate repos, one of which was we took all of the builder components and put them into the builder repository. We did the same thing with our protocols and our core crate. So all those things are separated out. So this looks like actually that Elliot aggregated all of the reasonable comments into a single issue and then moved it into the new repo and closed out the previous one. And so this other issue is actually referring back to that. I think that what Nathan is hitting here is this issue specifically. It's not actually an issue of whether or not the plan is in a subdirectory. I think that the issue actually is that that if you push changes to your code, it doesn't kick off a build. You have to actually change the plan or change something within the plan in order to get the build to kick off. So if you go into the builder repo and look at issue 84, there's a whole bunch of back scroll on this. And it looks like Chris even hit this as recently as like last week. So for Nathan's issue, I'm inclined to close this actually as a duplicate because I think that this is symptoms of the same problem. Anybody have any opposition to that? Cool. All right, I'm going to leave a quick comment then. Sweet. Cool. So I think we got time for one more. Scroll up to the top here. Let's hit 4162. I don't quite understand what's being asked here, so I'm going to look at the other thing mentioned. Oh. Oh, that's all been migrated, right? Yeah, that's also over in Builder now. Do we know if Elliot preserved the Git history when he did that one, or I'm sorry, if Josh preserved the Git history when he did the migration?
He did, yeah. That's why it was such a pain.
Yeah, sweet. All right, 1 second.
However, this doesn't look builder related. This should, I would imagine this would be in Habitat. We've thought about moving the exporters to their own repo and like an exporter repo, but we haven't done that yet. So anything exporter or studio should still be in Habitat.
I think this is actually referring to the exporting from the UI in Builder.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But I don't quite exactly know what's being asked. Does anybody know?
I don't know. He was also, so what I would do is I would just ping him for more information because I don't think that this is very clear. And he was in the process of writing a Kubernetes exporter when he filed this issue. So I think there's probably something very specific in here.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just leave a comment asking for an update, and we'll figure out what to do with it next week.
Yeah, because just the term non-standard launcher or supervisor, like I don't know what that means.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and if I was going to imagine what it means, I have like 6 different hypotheses. So let's just ask. Yeah.
All right, sweet. Well, I'll leave that comment, and we'll call that it for the week. We'll be back again next Tuesday. Well, some of us will. I won't be on, so hopefully somebody else will drive this next week. I'll actually be at Config Management Camp giving a talk next Tuesday. So
yay! You should live stream it, and we can heckle you from our Slack channel.
That would be wonderful. And then I can read the heckling after my presentation.
And have like no idea what it's referring to.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, so actually a bunch of us are going to be, so take this time to shamelessly plug ourselves. A bunch of us are going to be at Config Management Camp next week. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so that I'm another human face. And I'm not the only one that's giving a Habitat-related talk, actually. So I think Tim Smith, who is one of the core maintainers of Chef and does a lot of Chef code, is going to be doing a Habitat-related talk. As well as Salim Afyoun, who's been a Chef engineer for the last 3 years or so. He's going to be giving a talk on, I think, the studio as a development environment. So that should be a pretty cool thing. And I'm going to be talking about the history of containerization and why that matters today. So that'll be an interesting talk as well. So come out and see us at that. And then also, in the same week, we're going to be going from Belgium to Germany, and we're going to be doing the actual first EU Contributor Summit in Berlin, and that's next Friday. So it's coming up really fast. That event is totally free. The link to get registered on .io, and we've also, the Habitat Twitter account has tweeted out the link to that. So we would love it if any of you who are contributors could come to Berlin for a day and hang out with us and talk about the future of Habitat. It'd be great.
And you're going to swing by FOSDEM too, aren't you?
I'm not going to FOSDEM this year. If you had been going, Tasha, I would have gone. but since you're not going, I'm not going.
Okay, is Tim going?
Tim is going. So Tim, we'll have representation of one at FOSDEM.
Well, and then some of the Kinvoke team is going too. So if anyone wants to talk about Kubernetes and Habitat, they'll be a good crew.
Yeah, that'll be good. I'll have to make sure that Tim knows that too, because his talk is going to be and there's theoretically some Kubernetes in there too. So
awesome.
Cool. All right, everybody. We'll see you all next week. Thank you for joining us, and have a great week and a great weekend.